You know that feeling on a Sunday night? You feel like an absolute titan of productivity. You map out the whole week, you set your fitness goals, and there's this genuine, almost electric surge of excitement. But then, well, Monday evening rolls around. You're exhausted, the couch looks incredibly inviting, and that Sunday motivation? Yeah, it's completely vanished. So why does that happen? And more importantly, how do elite performers push through that exact same Monday crash?
Okay, let's dive into this explainer. Today, we're breaking down the science of discipline over motivation. We're going to shift our focus entirely away from that fleeting feeling of motivation and instead figure out how to build a reliable, unstoppable discipline engine using proven strategies from elite athletes. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start by debunking the myth of motivation. Then we'll build your discipline engine. After that, we'll tackle decision fatigue, explore some elite mental training tools, dive into autoregulation, and wrap it all up with the ultimate failsafe, the 5-minute rule.
All right, Section 1, the myth of motivation, and why relying on that feeling is fundamentally flawed.
I like to think of motivation as fuel, and discipline as the actual engine. Fuel is fantastic for a quick jumpstart, but as the neuroscience shows us, relying on it is just a bad strategy. Motivation is emotional, it's dopamine-driven, and honestly, it's highly unreliable. Stanford neuroscientist Andrew Huberman's research points out this crazy neurological reality. Every single dopamine peak, like that massive Sunday night planning high, is inevitably followed by a trough where your baseline dopamine actually drops below its prior level. I mean, that crash is literally built into your brain chemistry. Discipline, on the other hand, is systematic, reliable, and completely ignores those dopamine spikes. It's all about automated habits.
Moving on to Section 2, the discipline engine, building automatic behavior.
So how exactly do we build this automatic behavior so we aren't completely dependent on unpredictable dopamine hits? Well, when you start a new routine, it's managed by your prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain responsible for conscious, effortful decision-making. But true discipline isn't about white-knuckling your way through sheer willpower every single day. Actually, scratch that, it's more about repeating a behavior until the control transfers over to the basal ganglia. That is your brain's neurological automation system. Once a behavior shifts there, it doesn't take a conscious, draining decision anymore. It just kind of happens.
Now, what's really interesting here is the number 66. A lot of people throw around this idea that it takes 21 days to form a habit, right? But research out of University College London shows that, on average, it actually takes 66 days for a new behavior to become completely automatic. So, look, if you're feeling a ton of friction around week 3 or 4, that does not mean your system is failing or you lack willpower. It just means your brain is literally still in the process of transferring that action to your basal ganglia. You just gotta outlast that transfer period. Strength coach Ross Animate frequently shares this brilliant quote from Dan Millman. He says, "Successful people strive no matter what they feel by applying their will to overcome apathy, doubt, or fear." I love that because it perfectly captures the paradigm shift we're talking about today. The action has to precede the feeling. You don't sit around waiting to feel ready, you execute the plan and the feeling catches up later.
Okay, Section 3, beating decision fatigue, and the absolute power of environment design.
Every single day we're making thousands of subconscious choices, and this constantly drains the mental energy we need to execute the hard stuff, like an evening workout. To put this in perspective, wellness expert Dr. Sharon Gam often points to Steve Jobs. Jobs famously wore the exact same black turtleneck outfit every single day. Why? Just to eliminate one daily decision and preserve his mental bandwidth for things that actually mattered. When it comes to your fitness or your long-term goals, narrowing down your options is an absolute superpower. If you have to burn mental energy just deciding what to wear, where to run, or what routine to do, you're basically inviting decision fatigue to come in and derail you. So here are 3 totally actionable steps to bypass that fatigue. Step 1, design your environment. Lay out your workout clothes the night before so the good habit is just the path of least resistance. Step 2, set if-then triggers. So instead of a vague goal like, I'm going to exercise today, use an implementation intention. Something like, if it's 6 a.m., then I will put on my shoes and walk out the door. Studies actually show this can triple your goal completion rates. Triple. And step 3, front-load your actions. Knock out your hardest tasks early in the day before that decision fatigue really starts to pile up.
Section 4. Elite mental training tools, the strategies of top athletes.
When elite athletes are screaming internally to just quit, they rely on a very specific psychological toolkit.
First up is visualization. This is mentally rehearsing using all your senses to trigger those neural pathways. Second is positive self-talk. Actively controlling your internal dialogue can actually yield an 11% performance boost, which is huge at an elite level. And third is ACT, or acceptance and commitment training. Instead of trying to aggressively suppress uncomfortable thoughts or performance anxiety, ACT teaches athletes to just accept those feelings as passing clouds and then take value-driven actions anyway. It is an absolute game changer for preventing mental burnout.
And speaking of visualization, I have to spotlight this astonishing statistic. Brain imaging studies have confirmed that vivid mental visualization activates up to 90% of the exact same brain regions used during actual physical movement. 90%! You are quite literally conditioning your brain's motor cortex without moving a single muscle. This dramatically reduces the cognitive load required when you finally step up to face a high-pressure situation.
Moving on to Section 5, Autoregulation and Scaling, Training on Your Worst Days.
But let's be real. What happens when you actually get out there and your body is just not cooperating? That's where autoregulatory training comes in. It's defined as having the flexibility within a periodized routine to adjust training variables based on daily biofeedback. Researcher Brian Mann showed this perfectly with his autoregulatory protocols for football players. You don't just blindly push through a prescribed weight if your body is failing. Instead, you intelligently adapt the load based on how your body is actually responding on that specific day. It's all about matching the physical stress to your current state of readiness.
There's this great anecdote from The Art of Manliness about having a totally terrible deadlift day where the weight just wouldn't budge. Instead of throwing in the towel and quitting entirely, you scale. Here's exactly how you do it. You can reduce the intensity by lowering the weight or speed. You can reduce the volume by doing fewer reps. You can change the exercise entirely, like maybe grab some kettlebells instead of that heavy barbell. Or, look, if all else fails, just go for a 30-minute walk. The goal isn't to break world records on a bad day. The goal is just to keep the discipline engine running and preserve that habit streak.
Which brings us to Section 6, the 5-minute rule, your ultimate fail-safe. If you can't even bring yourself to scale the workout, this is your ultimate fail-safe. It's a strategy highlighted by fitness platforms like the Sweat app. And the 5-minute rule is just an incredibly simple but highly effective cognitive behavioral trick. You set a timer, you commit to just 5 minutes of maximum effort, and you give yourself full permission to stop the second that timer goes off. The secret here? Most of the time, simply surviving that initial 5 minutes of friction triggers an endorphin rush and bumps up blood flow to the brain. You get to the end of the 5 minutes and your brain goes, well, I've already started, I might as well just keep going. It's a brilliant way to completely bypass procrastination.
Which leaves us with this final thought. You now know the neuroscience, the psychology, and the practical tools of elite performers. So are you going to keep waiting for motivation to magically strike on a Sunday night? Or what system of discipline are you going to build for tomorrow? The engine is yours to assemble. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you in the next one.